There we go. All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Screaming into the Void, episode number 16. Steve, it's been, what did you say, 18 months since we last did this?
Around that, I mean, the last time there were a couple ones that I wasn't a part of, but it was in there.
All right, cool. So, yes, welcome everyone back to another episode of Screaming into the Void. It has been a very long time, but we're happy to be back. Me and Steve have a lot to talk about, or at least you have a lot to
Yeah.
catch up on for sure,
Oh, for sure.
because it's been a very long time. So, Steve, why don't we start off with you? What have you been up to in the almost 2 years
So,
since we've been away?
yeah, so the last episode that I was a part of was episode 12, mind you, we're on episode 16. So in the past 18-ish months, give or take, like there were four podcasts that I was not a part of. Whether that be because of like I was out of town or I had something going on or whatever, but the 12 was the last time I was in. Last time we were talking about that, I had just started my internship at a company, and I can say it now that I finished up and I'm all done with that. Well over a year now. I worked for CA Bosse's, Cattaraugus Allegheny Bosse's. I was an IT intern. Um, Honestly, like I listened to the old podcast for a little bit just to kind of get a taste or a flavor of what I was kind of going through back then. And back then, I was talking about how like communication was an issue and stuff like that. And I will say that like it's still an issue with like I still had a lot of issues. It didn't get that much better, but I just kind of came to deal with it just so that way I could get through, get my internship done, and then eventually graduate. So moving on from there, I did finish that internship up. I did get all my credits for it, and I had two classes left. I moved from Allegheny back to Buffalo, living with my parents now currently, and essentially what happened from there is that I had two outstanding classes. I went to the local community college and I signed up for both those classes. And halfway through those classes, lo and behold, pandemic. So pandemic struck and like I had to finish those classes online. I passed both of them. I did get my bachelor's, so now I am officially out of college. I am a degreed person. I college graduate. Very proud of that. I have my degree somewhere around here. Um,
It's somewhere.
Well, I'm pretty sure my parents have it hanging upstairs. I'm probably gonna make a copy so I have something sitting down here. But so now I work for a medical company doing IT for them. I work on their service desk. The company is technically I'm a contractor for Tech Systems, and then I contracted to Centene, which is the company that I work for, and I absolutely love this job. Like the job is like I work from home because obviously we're still in a pandemic on March 4th or April 4th, 2021. And so with all that, um, I work for big medical company. I love the job because I work from home and all that. It's so nice because I can just kind of do whatever between calls and whatnot. But usually there's always calls coming in, so I don't have that much free time. But make a good wage. I enjoy the company. The team I work with is awesome. And I also went into the right around April, this time last year, about a year ago, almost to the date, I met my girlfriend. Yes, I have a girlfriend now. It's kind of weird to think, but so now she takes all my time, and that's really it. But that's essentially all I've been up to. I graduated college, and I did a short stint working for Amazon, just in one of their distribution factories. Not a fan, not gonna lie. I was only there for a month and a half before I got contracted in with Centene. But um, all in all, that's really all I've been up to. I just work and I go and see my girlfriend most of the time. Um, I think Martin has had a bit more of a interesting time because he's been home like two or three times in the past year due to various reasons. But the one being what he'll tell you when he has the floor. Granted, that's if people who are watching don't actually pay attention to his YouTube videos, or if it's your first time here. So
Yeah, so there's been a few instances where I've had to be home. Since 2019, the two have been two Christmases, right? And one of them was also for a funeral, unfortunately. Um, I came home around August of 2020. I believe that's what it was, around August, to do a funeral for my grandfather. He passed away and he was since he was military, I came home and performed many military some traditions in full service dress with members of the Navy, honor guard of the Navy. So that was interesting. Um, Doing so around this time, for COVID has been frustrating to say the least. But I'll backtrack. So back around 2019, since me and Steve last did a podcast, a lot's been happening with me. Primarily, the biggest things that have been going on is the fact that, of course, if you didn't know, I don't live in California anymore. I moved. I live in Hawaii now, and this broadcast coming to you live from the shores of Hawaii and my really bad internet. um, it's atrocious, but regardless, yeah. So I don't live in California anymore. At PCS, I spent a little over 4 years in California. It's hard to believe it was that long, huh, Steve?
Yeah. I'm just annoyed I never got to come out there and visit you. I love California.
But yeah, so I no longer live there. Um, I left my last unit. I was part of my last unit for about for around the 4 years I was there. I got my first Air Force Commendation Medal as an NCO, and coming here has been a very drastic change in pace as far as workflow and tempo, ops flow, and things like that, because this place is just much different than what I'm traditionally used to in my environment. So it's definitely challenging to say the very least. I'm not totally happy about it yet. I don't want to judge it prematurely, but it definitely isn't what I was hoping for. Um, I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed on that end, but I mean, it is what it is. So, but yeah, it hasn't been too interesting as far as anything else. Love life isn't really much to show for at the moment, but that's okay. And that's really all I have to say for right now. Outside of the fact that if you want to go into more in detail about my PCS and how that's been going, that was a nightmare. Oh my goodness, that was a nightmare. And COVID hasn't made that situation any easier.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic, why don't we start talking about COVID a little bit? Just because we went in for an entire year without making any updates or any real COVID esque talks. Like, I know all the people out there watching, they'll definitely want the opinion of a 24 and a 25-year-old sitting in, like, I'm sitting in my parents' basement and Matt's in Hawaii. So, but
I don't think we'll add anything
sarcasm
relatively
apologies.
new to the conversation, but what I think we
No.
can add as a relative benefit is how it's affected us individually.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I'll get started with me. COVID didn't really affect me so much as like a health issue because I'm relatively healthy. The only concern was when again, as I said earlier, I was working at Amazon. I worked there in like May, like April to May of 2020, and so we had packages coming in and like had to wear masks and like quarantine if you were tested positive and whatnot. I've never tested positive. Nobody in my family, like immediate family, has tested positive. Both my parents are now vaccinated. My sister is vaccinated. I am not. That's just because it's hard to get an appointment in New York with like everything that's going on. And I would rather like someone's grandmother gets vaccinated before I do because again, I'm a relatively healthy 24-year-old and I don't go out that much. I work from home and I go see my girlfriend and that's it. So I'm really not too concerned on that front. I've never shown any symptoms. Nobody in my family's had anything like that. Like, so it's not really affected me that much health wise, but I did have two family members pass away from COVID. One was my great aunt who I didn't see her all that much. She lived in an assisted living facility in Buffalo and was taking care of kind of a ward of the state, so to speak. But there was her, and then there was a friend of my father who he got it suddenly, and it was like right in the very beginning when they really didn't know what COVID was or what they were dealing with, and so he ended up passing away from that. And like, I feel I don't really know much about it, but that was kind of strenuous because he was close to my father and whatnot. But besides that, there wasn't really too much beyond that really happened. The only other thing COVID related that happened with my job would be like my company being a medical company is doing quite well because they work in provider claims and everything like that. So it was kind of nice knowing that I had that job security lined up, so I wouldn't have to worry about like losing my job during a pandemic, getting on unemployment, and everything like that. And So that's really how COVID's really affected me. And yeah,
Now, would you say, because I know this has affected me, but I'll ask you first, would you say that on a socialization standpoint that COVID has affected you in a bad or a good way, neutral?
I'd say neutral. I'm a pretty relatively outgoing person in general. Like I'm always talking to people. I'm like normally before the pandemic, I was always out and about, always like not necessarily going to like parties or anything, but like I was always around people. I was always talking to people. Like I like being around people. It's nice. But like I also like being on my own, like rather not on my own so to speak, but being on like being in my house the entire time for work and everything like that. I do get very sick of the whole four walls thing. And like socially, I definitely feel like it's kind of affected me because like I guess it's just I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, but essentially, I don't feel like I'm like socially like stunted, but I definitely feel like I don't portray myself as good as I should. I guess like that would be the best way to put it. Where I guess like I'm kind of used to like having a screen in front of me, doing everything through Zoom, so you don't have to worry about like if someone says something like in a Zoom call that you don't like, you can just kind of mute them and stuff. You can't do that in real life, and I'm kind of like getting around that still because like I've never been to the office that I work at and at the company I'm at, and with that, like there's a lot of like nuances of like Zoom calls and everything like that that like I prefer that over like in-person meetings and stuff like that. So that's just me. I mean, what about you, Matt? Like, what really has how's your social life been affected from the pandemic?
It took a lot more of a hit than I initially would have liked. Now, it's
Hmm.
because of my failure to realize how much work played into my social group and my social life,
Hmm.
as it were. Um, when it started, and I was also aggravated too, right? Because you do your work from home. I
Yeah.
can't do that. It's not
Right.
possible for me to work from home. So when they kept telling me to do stuff from home, I'm like, I can't. I don't know what you anticipate me to do. I don't have the resources, access, none of it. There's nothing I can legally do
Yeah.
here. So I was aggravated
Yeah.
about that, and they had us do a bunch of random nonsense, like, for example, go read these books, go watch this show, or listen to this movie, listen to this podcast. I'm like, I got a podcast you can listen to, but that wasn't acceptable. So either way,
Yep.
that hit me pretty hard. And I think the other rough part of it too was that in my flight that I was in previously, I'm not much of a socializer anyway, so it definitely wasn't very good for me. I had my finite group of friends that I really like to stick to, and it really hurt how much I saw them. And then a lot of the time I was sitting at home and I was streaming or gaming or doing something, and yeah, that took a decent load off my mind, but it wasn't enough because I didn't realize how much I liked just going out for food at the random, going out to dinner, what have you. I lost all those abilities because I wasn't allowed to do it, right?
Right. Right. That
So
makes sense.
and then everything else is a process. You want to go out to eat, better call in advance, better bring a mask, better have a booth, better, all this other random nonsense. It's like, dude, I just want to eat some food. I just want some spaghetti. Give me my
Yep.
spaghetti. I don't want to have to go through a fucking interview just to eat food. Um,
Right. Right.
it was very frustrating. So that hurt quite a bit because it took away what little resources I had in the way of socialization because I'm not very good at socializing anyway. I have a very
Yeah.
hard time
Yeah.
finding groups of friends and people that either A, I can tolerate, or B, can tolerate me. It's usually a one way
Yeah.
street of those things. And typically,
Hmm.
when I find people that I liked, I stick with that. And I lost a
Yep.
lot of that. So that was really unfortunate. In the
Hmm.
in the relationship world at the time, it hurt. It actually ruined a relationship that I really wanted to hang on to, which and Steve, I know what you know which one I'm talking about.
Yep. Yep.
Was really unfortunate. So that really sucked. I still think about that sometimes. And in other realms of the world, I guess the only thing that's affecting me now is just that I'm tired of it. I am tired of every single day. There's been times I go to work and I'm like, oh, I gotta go back. Why? I forgot my mask. I literally have to wear a mask that matches with my uniform. That's how stupid it is now.
Hmm.
So in a sense now, the way it affects me at this current moment is that I'm just tired of it because Hawaii is already incredibly restrictive and everything takes up is very long to do. Like when I got here, dude, I made an appointment to the DMV in January. I still am waiting to see my car. I've waited
Wow.
over 3 months for that. Here's
Yeah.
another example. Actually, you know what? I will not bring that example up. I'm going to rescind that. Point being, though, is that it's incredibly frustrating to attempt to do literally anything. It's been a process. So I guess for this long rant, the short blurb, the bluff up front, the bottom line up front here is that
Hmm.
it definitely hit me a lot harder than I was willing to anticipate, and than I had accounted for.
Yeah. I think that's kind of how everyone felt with the whole thing, where like it's it started with 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and here we are a year and a half later, still seeing the repercussions of our first actions.
It's unfortunate, and honestly, I know
Yeah.
I can't I can't really say too much in the social political realms of whether or not the government was handling this the right way. But what I can say is that the stimulus checks were not going to be nearly enough to sustain people of what from the figures they had originally posted. They
Oh yeah.
actually believe that $1,400 can cover people for months. I'm like, what world do you live in? I can't think of
In
anywhere in the U.S. where $1,400 can cover you rent, bills,
in like
utilities for multiple months.
in Iowa, maybe in like one small town with a population of like 36.
Yeah, maybe. But that's the point, right? Is that I couldn't
Hmm.
think of any place reasonably where that could hold you. Now, I'm lucky in the sense that, my job is federal, so I always had a paycheck coming in, so I wasn't affected. However, I can say that I don't necessarily know what the anticipation was from only $3,200 in stimulus checks over the course of a year and a half. I guess I
Yeah,
don't
no,
really
they
know.
didn't. I think it was the idea was it was a holdover because they were gonna get it solved and they were gonna like fix it or cure it or whatever the hell they planned on doing. But like,
Well, the vaccination, I'm not going to get too much in that realm because I don't know too much about it. So I'm not going to speak as if I know what's happening, right? However,
right, right,
I am personally waiting for the vaccination because I'm going to have to get it regardless.
yeah,
Like being in the military, I'm going to have zero choice in the matter. So the reason I'm waiting is purely due to the fact that it just seems a little too quick. Now, you could
well,
you could you
that's
could
mhm.
argue right that part of that reason is because this is the biggest problem we've had probably since the Black Plague or the bubonic plague, and this needs
No,
to
I
be
think
solved
I think it was
now.
the Spanish flu was the last big one.
When was
That's
that?
kind of the point of on 1912.
Okay, then yeah, you'd be correct. But my
Yeah.
point being though is that regardless of that, this is the next big one. So you probably could argue that well they put all their resources to solving this one thing because they had to, which yes you
Hmm.
could do, but ultimately with every other vaccine that's ever come into existence, the testing and time period is just that much longer.
Right.
Um,
Well, I mean, like I've looked at I've done a little bit of research into the clinical trials of this, and like all the vaccines that you can make an appointment and get, Moderna, Pfizer, like Johnson & Johnson, whatever, all the clinical trials don't officially end until 2023, even though they're open to the public. So like
that's
I'm
concerning.
gonna right. Well, to me it's like, and I told my parents this because they were both vaccinated. Like I was like, look, like I'm not anti-vax, but getting a vaccine that was rushed in 10 months because the whole world was like shut down for a minute, like I think that was not like that's just not a smart decision. Like you can have the greatest minds in the world on it, which we have, but if it takes them 10 months to come up with something that's only effective like 60% of the time in like Johnson & Johnson's case, like I'd rather not get it. Like
Well,
I would
also
rather wait till
countries
the
were
clinical
working
trials are
independently
over.
on it too. You have to keep in
Oh yeah,
mind
yeah.
this wasn't like a UN group effort. A lot of countries were working solely independent to try and get their
Yeah.
countries vaccinated before. And interestingly enough, in other countries in the world too, and even in the U.S., people are
Mhm.
trying to censor COVID entirely. If you look at
Oh
like the
yeah.
PRC, which is People's Republic of China, the PRC and the Chinese government have gone to great lengths to censor the uh,
Oh yeah.
the people as
Well,
far as
that's like
COVID, especially in like other places, mostly like in that general area of the
mhm,
world, around Asia. It's really
yeah.
interesting. So people are just trying to. Some places are just trying to live as if it's not a thing at all, even though we
Well,
all
that's
know
the
it is.
thing is like see like one of the big issues that I see are like people say like, "Oh, COVID, I don't want COVID to be a thing." It's like, "Well, it is a thing. You have to treat it as a thing or else like you're going to be in trouble." But also the big issue that comes up is the idea like of the conspiracy theorists, like how everything is now a conspiracy theory. Like I've
Oh
seen a
yeah.
lot where like people are saying like Bill Gates is microchipping the vaccines. Like
Even though people
no,
all
that's
have GPS enabled cellular phones where they
literally
agree to
like
sign their life away with every single app that they download, but that's irrelevant.
exactly. Like, and that's kind of the whole thing is like people are quoting, oh, New World Order this or oh, like QAnon that, and it doesn't really make for much of a convincing argument, and it just makes the masses more paranoid and less likely to like actually respond well when they're given like a choice or given something to do or something to try. Like,
Well, you think the issue too that you got to consider is that people just can't view anything as organic. They think everything has to have a secondary ulterior motive. You know,
oh right, right,
everything has to be that because you could argue that this similar. You can argue that this instance also in a similar way with a not the same outcome but a similar outcome could be related back to Project or Operation Infection, which we didn't know was the Soviet smear campaign against the United States to claim that back in the 1960s and 1970s that the United States government created HIV to eradicate the homosexual population.
yeah,
You could argue
yeah.
that
Well, I
too
mean,
and
like
say these
that's
have
no, the
similar
Chinese did
strides.
that. Like, yeah, like like
No, that was the
people argue
Soviets.
that. Right, right, no, but like in today's day and age, because the virus originally originated in China, people are saying like, oh, it's the China's attempt to population control or something like that. Like,
Which doesn't really make any sense because if you look at the
right,
numbers, the Chinese government with the one child laws have successfully aborted over 250 million children.
right, right. Like,
So it's kind of like you're very much succeeding in population control with what is you could almost argue is one of the biggest genocides in history just by
mhm.
that strand alone.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like,
So I
yeah,
mean,
it's crazy. Like,
it is. So I'm not trying to talk about like saying they should or shouldn't do that. I have no regard or not regard, but I have no play in how they should operate their business. That's their government. I'm just stating that those are the actual statistics behind the matter. Whether they do or do not view it in that manner is completely up to them. But the way that these businesses and this situation has concluded itself, and the strides between Operation Infection and this situation are very similar,
yeah,
because
yeah,
ultimately what you have now are two relative smear campaigns and the conspiracy theorists that look at them as a way of controlling the populace. Maybe not
mhm.
killing them, but controlling the populace with the
Right, right.
GPS, with the microchipping infection, the 5G towers, and freaking nonsense.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
though 5G operates in a lower bandwidth than current 4G, so people are really that stupid, but that's irrelevant. So point being is that ultimately you have people that just cannot take anything that's an organic problem like this. Genuinely could just be a freak of nature that happened, but people don't want to view it
Right.
that way because everything in this world has to be secondary motivated. But that's
Hmm.
just me though. Ultimately, I don't know what the actual answer is. Of course, I don't know what the answer is. Um, there's just no way to organically see the situation anymore because if people
Yeah.
want to make it
Yeah.
more than what it is. What I see it as right now is the biggest pain in my rear end because I'm tired of having to consider it everywhere I go, especially as someone who
Hmm.
wears glasses because that's really annoying.
Hmm. Yeah. That's another thing that I got done. Literally like a month before the pandemic started, I literally went and I literally went and got LASIK surgery. So now so for those that don't know what LASIK is, um, it's basically they shoot a laser beam into your friggin' eyeball to reshape your eye and basically fix your vision. Like I had really bad vision, but I had a really stable prescription, so they were able to like alter the like top layer of my eye, and so now I don't need glasses anymore. And I was concerned,
Lucky.
like, oh, honestly, I was like, oh crap, like now I need to go and now I need to go and like get this surgery done. And then this pandemic's happening, and we're gonna have to wear masks. And oh my god, and like nothing like that happened where anything bad happened. But now it like everybody in like my family, they're all saying like, oh my god, like I wish I got LASIK. Oh my god, these masks are terrible. Like I don't like wearing masks and glasses and stuff. So
It's not so much. I think it's more or less one of those boiling points of annoyance, right? Where it's
yeah, it's
manageable. I can do it, but I
oh
hate
yeah.
it. It's not something I'm not going to sit here and claim that I like it. I don't like it. It's
Hmm.
frustrating. Um, Now, unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to get LASIK because the Air Force actually told me your eyes are too poor for us to correct. Or I'll rephrase that: you could be corrected, however, there's too much of a risk factor involved with you. We
Hmm.
could fix
Would you
you.
rather have glasses or would you rather be blind?
Pretty much, yeah. They said
Yeah.
there is a chance the surgery could go wrong and we could actually
Hmm.
fully blind you. And I said, you know what, glasses aren't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because honestly, yeah, I would like to be able to not wear glasses, but maybe get better with contacts one day. However, I don't want to take the chance of being blind because that really ruins my life essentially, you know.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
got a
other
big effect on your gaming.
yeah,
I'm
you know, not being
assuming
able to see anything sucks.
trying to play Call of Duty Warzone in Braille.
How much you want to bet I could still win a game like that though? Bring it
Oh,
on.
probably.
Bring it on. I'll win. I'll hard carry.
Oh, for
Um
sure.
but the other issue too is the Air Force had also stated that was interesting was that they had said that because of what you do and how much of an investment we're not gonna take a risk at losing you. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, the risk being what it is, it's a no go. So that was
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah. That sucks. So, but yeah,
So I
government doing
apologize
some
if this
weird
seemed
things.
like a political rant to go against either conspiracy theorists or against either something government because I know I brought up Operation Infection and the parallels with that and with the now known conspiracy theories of they're gonna microchip the vaccine, which honestly, going on that point alone, I don't necessarily know what people think would happen if that were the case because there is really no such thing. This is my opinion too, as full done anonymity anymore. At least not to me,
Hmm.
unless you are a complete master of the cyber realm, which
Well, like
no one here
you'd have to
is.
be right. You'd have to be a master of the cyber realm, but also you'd have to be a recluse because like once you hop online, like even if you mask your IP, even if you like change your MAC address, even if you do like have 45 firewalls for them to get to you, you're still leaving a trail. And unless like you're really good at what you do and you know what the heck is going on and like you're careful in every other aspect besides just browsing online, there's no such thing as anonymity anymore. Like this is what I went to college for, like cybersecurity and stuff like that. And so like it's very hard to truly be like off the radar, off the grid. Like
Oh, it's
you always
entirely
see all these people.
impossible at this point. I feel like.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Like because like it's like, oh, I'm gonna go live off the grid. It's like, all right, where are you gonna do that? Oh, like state parks. It's like, all right, you need a license and registration to get into the state park. Oh, well, darn. Like, oh, like my family doesn't like I was born in like Alabama in like a shed. There's no birth certificate for me or anything like that. Like, okay, how are you gonna get anything done? How are you gonna like, oh, I've got cash. I've got like no credit cards, no paper trails. Like, and then it just goes from there where like there's so many things that are so easy to just like if you get a credit card, if you get a cell phone, if you are seen on CCTV, like every store has security cameras, you'll be seen there. Like you can't you're not there's no such thing as being anonymous anymore. Like 40 years ago, sure, you could have done that, but now, not a chance.
Well, it's because you have to consider the fact that the internet has merged so much with their daily lives, right? You have a credit score
Mhm.
online even when you're a child. You just don't know it yet.
Mhm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just it's
Mhm.
ultimately to the point now where it's become so much easier to do that. I mean, hell, I file my taxes through H&R Block. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
Online. I did my taxes this year and last year online on my own. It was super easy, by the way. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's it's impossible almost to a limited extent. The only way it could truly stay anonymous to any degree is just not use it at all, really. And that's only
Right,
if,
right.
which in my case, I'm definitely screwed because I've been doing this for over 10 years.
Yeah.
I have a thick file. They got a file on me going, Martin, this idiot, you know.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. Um, so there's that. But and the same even goes for you too. Maybe not the same as me, but you still do. So it's interesting to say the least. Especially when I know what I do for a living. Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on
So,
from the depressing
yeah, from
topics.
that
We'll try to move on to something a bit
yeah.
more uplifting. So what do you have in mind?
Um I was just thinking we could talk a little bit about like some of the memes and stuff that have been going on. Like
Interesting. My favorite has to be Game Stonks, personally.
I was just about to say like just the supreme chancellor of meme culture, which is Elon Musk. Like he goes and he tweets about a cryptocurrency or a stock, and
Dogecoin.
next day I made $50 on Dogecoin because of Elon tweeting. Like
That's so
I didn't think that was
amazing.
possible. I bought 2,000 Dogecoin before it was worth a penny each, and I bought like $50 worth, and then I just kind of let it sit, just thinking, hey, like if everything goes belly up, at least I'll have some fucking, pardon my language, something in crypto. But so then the whole thing, like Elon tweets, "Oh, Dogecoin to the moon," and I check my portfolio and I see there's like an extra like almost $100, and I'm like, "Where did this come from?" And I'm like looking through all my like assets, and sure enough, Dogecoin is like up to like 8 or 9, is like up to 7 or 8 cents. I think it peaked just under 8 cents per coin, and like I had like like $50 worth of this when it was worth like before it was worth even a single penny, and now it's worth multiple pennies. So I made some money on that. I sold, it dropped, I bought back. I guess you could say I short squeezed, as the game stonks would do. But
I remember I'd
so
seen two things to bring up on
yeah,
the topic. Is one is another meme that I had seen, and this is my
yeah,
favorite one. You see, if you guys have seen that meme, right, where Homer is shown in the bathtub, then Bart's gonna hit him over the head with a chair,
yep,
and
yep,
one of it, and for the label for Homer was billionaires assured that GameStop's gonna
mhm.
die, and then Bart was labeled as Reddit YOLO boys buying stocks.
Yep, literally, like
Because when you think about it, right, what altered the change course of the entire stock market was just a bunch of people memeing on Reddit. The seventh most
yep,
visited website in the world, I think, at the time I looked at it. It could be higher or lower now. It's still in the top 10,
yeah.
100%. But it was just a meme. Buying it out was a meme. GameStop got a secondary choice of life as a meme. And now, at the same time, Robinhood, the irony of that name, is now under
Yep,
indictment for fraudulent trading.
yep. Well, because that was because they stopped trading of GameStop's shares.
Well,
So
weren't they doing the same with Dogecoin too?
yes, they were doing the same with
They were
Dogecoin. I
throttling
didn't
like the buying of it, like
Right,
throttling
right. Yeah.
the sale and resell, right?
Right. You could only sell, and and that was so that way they could flood the market with Dogecoin to eventually have the coin actually drop in value, because the amount on the market would have skyrocketed because people were selling because it was doing so well. The thing they didn't account for was people just held, like myself, just held through it, and then a couple days later it skyrockets even more, and then people sell, and then they're like, "Well, we have no control now." Crap.
Well, that was the
So
entire point of the memes, right? And the on
yeah,
Twitter, everyone was like, "Boys, hold the line, hold the Dogecoin, hold the game
yep,
stonks."
yeah.
The whole
I
joke of
actually
like, "Hold the line."
Yep. I actually just looked up GameStop's stock ticker, and just the 52-week low was $2.57 per share. The 52-week high was $483 per share. Like that's like a thousand
Wow.
percent gains. Like it's just unbelievable gains. Like
That's actually madness. So now, I think the more interesting discussion to have at this point is that do you think that GameStop as a business is going to maintain any sort of longevity from this movement, or do you think it was just the meme for the time being?
honestly, I think it was the meme, and because GameStop was merely the medium at which people stuck it to hedge funders and like the trust fund people and Big Daddy Wall stock or Wall Street. So because it happened to
Monopoly
a
guy.
number of different stocks that were short squeezed, where like these dying markets, like such as like Best Buy. Best Buy's being ran over like a freight train by Amazon, because you go to Best Buy, they only have certain things in stock, certain like markups and stuff like that. You go to Amazon, you have almost no market markup depending on it, and they can get it to you in a day and a half. Like I've had stuff where same day arrived at my house that I ordered it.
Because
Like,
there's the shipping plan that's near you, so arguably whatever you
well, yeah,
want might be
yeah,
within stock. And I had the same
right,
situation at my old place too, where immediately down the road from me was an Amazon warehouse.
mhm,
I ordered like a charging piece for my phone. Within 3 hours, it was at my door. Where
yeah,
else do you
like
get something like that?
yeah,
That's
and
insane.
like the service is awesome, but also like I would almost rather say like what it's costing people is kind of like almost annoying, because it's like you've got people that are like Jeff Bezos that are worth hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, and like they have all this money to run this massive international conglomerate of a company, and like we just keep throwing more money at them. Like I would almost say it would be nicer if Amazon went down for the sake of like repopulating like a smaller business market to make things more competitive to drive the price down.
But the thing
Like,
is, do you think the market could handle it? Because Amazon,
oh
much like
yeah,
a lot of other companies, are very ingrained within the current social economical standard. Because you know what you have, right? What you have now is a service. What you have now is
yeah.
a service that can't be beat. Do you really believe, be honest with yourself, that people, not even just in the US, but all over the world would give up a service where they could order whatever they want, watch videos, play games, do whatever it may or may not be, and just go back to the way things were
Oh yeah,
prior?
no, no.
The
There's
answer
no
is
chance
no.
it'll ever do
There's no
like that.
way. You have to
And
find
that's just
someone
simply
else to
because
fill that void, or multiple companies. But do you think they could do it to the effectiveness that Amazon already has done? It would take probably 10 years before they get to that
yeah,
point.
and Amazon is still existing as a whole. Like if we like blinked or like if we woke up one day and Amazon like Jeff Bezos, all their executives and like a bunch of workers were just gone. Just one day they just like packed up, went to an island and suicide pact or something like that. Like
They drank the
nobody like
punch.
right, they drank the fruit punch. Like if something like that were to happen, it would still take so long for all the other mediums to catch up to where Amazon has that hold on the market.
It'd be
Like,
it's almost impossible. And I think one of the more
right,
interesting things
right.
about it, and I keep bringing this up kind of as a joke, but it's also true to an extent. Amazon is a legally operating monopoly right now.
Yes.
There's absolutely no one competing with them, and they have put out
Hmm.
so many businesses. Honestly, with COVID, it only helped them.
They made like the richest of the rich made like 200 plus billion dollars in 2020, whereas like the like more people like went to homelessness and like a lot of people died, and it's just been awful for like the people at the bottom of the ladder, but the people at the top aren't even feeling it.
No,
That's
they're
why
not
you
feeling it at
have
all. If
these
anything, it's only been good for them, right? Sony,
and that's
and
why
I
you
think
have these
Sony, Microsoft, and Steam reported calendar years due to all
Mhm.
video game sales. They had made
Yeah,
insane amounts of money, you know?
yeah. And like but that also like the gap between the rich and the poor almost it shows when like you see all these politicians, congressmen, like stuff like even mayors and governors and stuff are all being busted at these big fancy restaurant parties, not wearing masks, not following COVID social distancing stuff. And like it's because they're the ones in the power, and so like they'll be like, oh, I was caught without a mask on, well, I guess I'm exempt now. Like
Well, what was
and
that
who's
situation a few months ago? Was it a governor of a certain southern state? I believe it was Texas, who put a restriction of movement on all the people saying they couldn't travel, they couldn't do this. Possibly, I don't remember what the exact details were. But after that, they caught him vacationing without a mask on somewhere else. Am I right about
I
that?
remember there were two instances like that. There was one where um I want to say it was like the governor of like or like the mayor of a town in like Texas or something, or like Utah or Arizona or something. He delivered a statewide address from a resort in Cozumel or something like that. Like he was like, oh, we gotta like hunker down, stay put, and like all that. He's in Cozumel hunkering down, and all the people. And then the other one was Ted Cruz when Texas had their big deep freeze for the first time in like 100 years, where they actually got like a foot and a half of snow and the whole state was shut down and they were just screwed. And he went and he had to verify that his family went on vacation safely before coming back to the US, which really was just he was trying to go on vacation and he was caught. He was caught with his hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. So like that's the whole thing is like you have these politicians where like they're trying to like BS and like come up with an excuse like, oh, like with Ted Cruz, oh, I was making sure my family arrived in Cancun safe. And we're over here like, yeah, why was there a suitcase for you then? And he's like, oh, well, and he couldn't come up with anything for it. So
Well, one of the more
like,
interesting things, and I always bring this up to people, especially around the
yeah,
the periodic 4 year mark, because what's every 4 years in the U.S. particularly?
the election.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I keep bringing up to people is that it's this side or it's that side or it's whatever. The big thing I bring up to people is that it's neither of those things. Well, what do you mean? I said it's the ruling class versus you. Ultimately, what you have right now is that these people, I'm not saying they don't care. It's just that I have a hard time believing that they do because they are the ruling class. Democrat, Republican, whatever your opinion is on
Yep.
either of those party, I don't have allegiance to either of them. They are the ruling class, and they
Yep.
know that. If you truly believe either of those parties really have it out for you in the good way, then you know, I
It's
have,
about money. That's what it comes down to.
yeah, I have some ignorance to sell you because that's just not true.
Yep. Yep.
And that's what I always try to tell people is that you should look at all the more distinct variables of what they potentially could offer in the sense of, well, can they deliver? Now I'm not gonna bring up Biden versus Trump. I didn't like either of them, so I don't really have much reserved opinions on that. I didn't do too much research into their politics too much. So let's just not go into that realm. Point being though is just that you need
Yeah.
to look at it more in the sense of how they are and what they have versus what you have in their interests. Because when this situation happened, again, as Steve had stated, only really us were affected, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The like lower class were the only ones affected.
So, I mean, I can think of a lot of people, especially around my own whole town, where a lot of businesses shut down because they couldn't
Yeah.
maintain.
Oh
And
yeah.
you know, again, Sony, Microsoft, Valve,
Mm-hmm.
record years, man.
Oh
I
yeah. Well,
mean,
that was because
Twitch
people are
has,
stuck in their house.
yeah,
Like,
Twitch had a booming increase in the streaming market because so many people were at home, so they wanted to stream. That's why if you want to get your hands on PC parts or streaming parts, good luck with that.
mm-hmm.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy. I mean, like, so
But to trying to alleviate from that point on, I think one of the more interesting things now is trying to examine those individual markets as a whole. So I know I've been streaming now for almost, oh god, I've been streaming for about 3 years now, coming up on around that time.
mm-hmm.
And Steve, from an outsider's perspective, right? When you look at your biggest streamers and their earnings, remember I talk to people about this a lot. What do
Yeah.
you honestly believe people earn as a streamer, like or as a content creator in general? What do you view those potential statistics as?
See, like, it depends. I guess I'll say it depends on the streamer to me, because like, if you're a smaller streamer, if you were breaking like 1,000 a month, that's a lot. If you're like someone like I was scrolling through Twitch the other day when you were streaming, and I was just looking at some of the other like people that I follow, and like obviously I saw like viewer count was like 7 or 8, like it was you had 7 or 8 like consistent viewers, and then the next one was a TikTok star, Aviva Sophia, and she had 580 people, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of people. Like that's like my entire high school graduating class in her stream, which is crazy. And then above that was like Jacksepticeye. He was playing Among Us. He had 30,000 people watching his stream. And like again, I guess I don't get it is like when you have like just a monster streamer like Syndicate, Jacksepticeye, PewDiePie, any of these old OG YouTube like Let's Play guru guys playing these like playing Among Us with like TikTokers and like playing Among Us with celebrities and stuff or all that. You go in there and there's just people just throwing money at them. And I just don't get it, I guess, because like these guys are already multimillionaires. These guys already have like they've made most of their wealth on YouTube and Twitch more recently as it's become a more prominent platform. And like I guess like I guess I'm a little salty because I would rather like watch like someone like you with your like the effort you put into your streams. I'd rather watch you go and have like 500 viewers on your stream and see the benefits of that rather than have like Jacksepticeye who like don't get me wrong, love the guy, he makes great content, but like I prefer to watch him do charity streams rather than like just stream in general because charity streams he'll raise more money. He'll like they're saying how they raise like $400,000 in like a 12-hour stream. Like that's more than like that is enough to be in the 1% of people making money in America. And they did that in 12 hours. Like it's just crazy how much money people are willing to throw at these big successful like YouTubers and how much they're like they don't want to throw anything towards like the smaller like Twitch streamers, YouTubers, which is to me it's kind of sad.
You know, the interesting thing, and I remember I bring this up to people, and I don't ask it in their chats, of course, but I often ask. I said, what outside of potentially the gameplay or the person that you just like their content, when you watch
Mhm,
a big streamer, why do you chat? Why do you donate?
mhm,
Why do you subscribe? Because
mhm,
the thing I asked them is that they're not even acknowledging notifications as they go off. They
mhm.
they don't sometimes
Well,
they don't even appear on screen. No notification goes off, no nothing. And I get it. If it did, it'd be consistent, it'd be nonstop.
well,
I
like
understand that.
if you have 30,000 people in your stream, that's just gonna like you won't be able to get a word in, you won't be able to talk, you won't be able to do it because it'll just be the entire time.
No, I
Like, so I
understand that,
get
but
that.
that's what I asked people. I said, if
Mhm.
they're not going to pay any relative attention to you as a viewer, what do you really get out of this? Genuinely asking, because
Dopamine.
and this is one of the more interesting things for me, and this is not a shot at anyone in particular. As a
Yeah, yeah.
streamer, I don't watch other streamers. I just don't. I watch a few of my friends to support their streams because they're my best friends, but
Mhm,
I, I personally don't really enjoy watching streams much, and I think that has something to do with the fact of how picky I am when it comes to streaming.
mhm.
And Steve and Blue could definitely tell you how OCD I am about stuff. So if I watch a stream
Yeah.
and I don't like the way something's set up, I'm not gonna watch it.
Mhm.
So
Well, I mean, like that's the same thing where like I've seen people where like it's like like I want to say like the Catch Me Outside girl. That girl went and
oh, her
like I think she
OnlyFans
Twitch streamed a
nonsense.
couple times. Well, no, not that. That's a separate topic.
Well, we could
But
actually draw
like
comparisons to it, right? We could, but go ahead.
oh, absolutely. But like well with that with the whole OnlyFans thing, like she made like $1 million like at midnight when her thing went live, just because people were just like, oh, she was hot when she was 16. Let's see what she looks like now that she's legal. And like she didn't
That's
post
weird.
anything. And like a minute after that, she posted one thing. It was already leaked to Reddit. It was already on the deep web. It was already leaked to 4chan. And so like with OnlyFans, there's a trade-off. It's a product, it's a service. Like with some of these people where like I've seen like OnlyFans where you pay $50 a month, but it's a quote unquote girlfriend experience where like you if you're on their premium list and you shoot them a message, hey, how's your day? They're gonna respond. They're gonna act like they're gonna provide a product or service to you. Like
Well, the
with
interesting thing that I bring it up, right, is that it's that
mhm,
necessity for why are you doing this for what money? And what I'm
right,
saying
right,
is that you brought up the idea that these Twitch streamers are so big, they've made their money. Why do
right.
you
Well, like
stream? And why do you go to make money? It's the same reason why celebrities make OnlyFans. You've made your money. Why are you depriving a market from somebody else who actually uses this as a legitimate source of income?
well,
I
I
have
was gonna
nothing
get
against
to that.
people who do that, by the way. If you want if you
Mhm,
that's how you quote unquote, as the children say, chase the bag, then you chase the bag, honey. It's fine. I really don't judge. I'm just memeing. Point being, though, is that why would you deprive a market from something that you don't gain any real value from outside of potentially ego?
mhm. See, to me, like my thing is I don't really care so much about OnlyFans like as a platform because it's a legitimate you you pay money, you get a product or a service that others would not have access to otherwise. I can hop in like let me open up my Twitch here real quick and let's see who like Monster Cat's playing and like let's see. Do-do-do-do-do. Okay, so there's like one of Jacksepticeye's old videos. Like 290,000 views.
That is
I don't
live
subs
viewers over the course of the entire stream. How many people
right,
clicked and watched for some level of duration? A few
right.
seconds, the entire stream is irrelevant.
I only follow him. I don't pay him any money. I don't go into his things in chat. And people like I've seen people go in and drop $150 in a donation that he didn't even acknowledge. And like whether it's for charity or whatnot, it doesn't really matter. But like if you're going and you drop $150 to a popular streamer and they don't acknowledge it, so you don't even get that dopamine rush. And me over here, who's not paying anything, can still watch the same exact content. I can't justify that.
Oh, I
Like,
can't either. It's why I don't watch big streamers because
right, right.
ultimately, unless you're providing the best, absolute, most cracked out gameplay of whatever it
Mhm,
is you're providing me, which I could probably get on YouTube and get better anyway,
mhm.
then unless you're literally making me like roll out of my chair as if I'm watching the funniest, skit of all time, then I
Yeah.
truly don't know why I would pay you when you won't even acknowledge me versus a streamer with
Mhm,
possibly 100 viewers or less who absolutely will. Hell, I'll give you one of my favorite examples, and I will bring him
mhm,
up because I fanboy so hard for this guy, and I have for 10 years, and you might know who it is. Probably my favorite example of someone who does care is FaZe Temper. I've been a
Yeah,
fan of
yeah.
FaZe for over 10 years. I actually bought a jersey. I'm still waiting for it. Don't judge me. Point being, though, is that Tommy gets about 570 viewers a stream consistently on average or higher. Whenever I pop into his stream, he always says what's up to me. He talks to me. I've actually had full conversations with
Hmm.
this dude in his chat with over
Yeah,
500 people. So the
yeah.
thing is, it's possible, but are you willing to do it?
Right.
Because again, yeah,
See, like,
people with thousands and
mhm,
thousands of viewers where that chat's just going like it's on crack. Sure, I understand that. You can't read it. You won't read it. It's not possible. Sure. But at the same
yep.
time, again, from a viewer, what do you get out of that? You know they're not going to acknowledge you. Ultimately, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but they largely don't really care about you in a direct sense because they don't know you. So
Right.
what are you really getting out of this? Out of the sense of I literally gave this person money because I like them. Sure, fine.
Yeah,
If that's
like
what you want to do with your cash, I will not tell you what to do. But
mhm.
what are you getting out of it? I don't know.
It doesn't to me it doesn't make any sense. Like if you're giving people money that don't need money, that's like me walking up to the CEO of like Amazon, like Jeff Bezos. I walk up Jeff Bezos, hey man, I really like what you're doing with your company. Here's $100. And
Yeah,
he'd be like,
exactly.
what the hell? Like
Yeah, the richest woman in the world, or I believe she was, or is she's definitely in the
second
top 10.
richest.
Second,
Yeah.
she became the second richest woman in the world purely by divorcing him.
Yep.
I think it was a infidelity scandal, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, not surprising. Point being, though, is just that the man is literally so rich. And there was also studies done that for him and Bill Gates, if they drop a certain amount of money, it is actually not worth their time to go back and pick it up. That is the
Yep.
level of just money we're talking here. Now, these streamers are definitely not in that same bracket. You know, Microsoft and I think Amazon as well are multi-trillion-dollar businesses. Microsoft
Yeah.
is worth 1.3 trillion dollars.
Yeah.
They have a legal monopoly on the software industry. Absolutely. I can't think of anyone who's really competing with them. Apple, not really. I don't believe it. I really don't believe Apple's competing with them. What do you think?
Hmm. I don't think they are. Like,
And the reason I say that is because when you think of operating systems, you think Windows. You
you
don't.
think Windows and Mac, and like if you're a nerd, you think of Linux. But like,
Oh, let's not start that war, please.
no, 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 we're not going there.
I think of Linux. Shut up. No one's talking to you. Go back to your
Yep.
nerd cave.
Yep.
But point being though is that traditionally speaking, when you think of operating systems, you primarily think of Windows and Mac
Windows. Yeah.
as a secondary. And the thing is, ultimately, and this is more a real true fact, when it comes to the ability to actually use your operating system, if you want usability and the accessibility to do what you want, you will not buy an Apple product. You just won't do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
The Apple products are built to be incredibly restrictive.
Hmm.
There's very limited freedom with anything.
Yeah.
What's Linux? I believe Linux is based on is around Python coding.
Linux is Unix
Unix, thank
based
you. I don't know why I
coding.
was thinking
Yeah.
Python.
Yeah. Well, Python's just one of the other websites to use, but yeah.
So Linux was one of the older operating systems where everything you do is based around your ability to actually code and program correctly. If you know how to navigate it, it's amazing. It's probably the best OS for you if you're a programmer. If you're
Hmm.
not and you're an average human being, you won't use it.
Hmm. See, like
It's more
I
like
took
one of those like
classes on Linux.
enthusiast things, you know?
Yeah. See, like I took classes on Linux, and like, is it cool? Yeah. Is like the newer OSs, you can use them on their own without touching anything like going in and knowing about programming. Like I've seen a lot of people use Linux just because it's a nice looking aesthetic. Like, and if that's what you want to use it for, that's fine. But like the people that say I use Linux are the people that are like the nerdy geek outs that like want to go into the source code and rip it apart and rebuild it and all that stuff on their own and just have fun, like, do
Yeah,
their own thing that way.
that's what it's for. If you're not buying an
Yeah.
OS purely to do coding, you will not buy Linux. You're not going to get
Well, you're
anything
not.
out of it.
Well, Linux is free. That's the other thing.
True, but you're not going to go out of your way to install it or use it. Is my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, Linux is definitely not something that I would definitely recommend for anyone if you
Yep.
really want to. But I mean, hey, it's out there if you want to do your research.
Yeah.
But
Like
you won't
whatever.
see me using it though.
No. I have a couple Linux boxes kind of sitting around for toys and stuff, but like I'm not for like what I use for work and stuff. Everything's Windows based.
So we're bringing up the discussion between like the OnlyFans thing and the Twitch streamer thing. So I want to go back to that point to just add one thing because I don't know if I said this, so I want to bring it up again. I do not, and I repeat, I do not have a problem with people who use those platforms who are already well established and have money. I am not saying, well, you've heard a certain milestone of your wealth, you're cut off. You can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Because for some people, that's a legit hobby or a legit source of happiness for them. So
Hmm.
I will not say you can't do this. Absolutely not. It's more or less just I don't see the financial benefit because you are actively making the market more competitive for people who don't need it to be. Do you see what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
In the sense of like the same with the OnlyFans, and what is she called now? Bad baddie, whatever, right?
Bad Baby or something like
I
that.
don't I don't know.
She
I don't know.
transitioned from Catch Me Outside to a rapper. Like she was she's if you look her up on Wikipedia, she's labeled as an American rap.
Really
Yep.
interesting. I'll have to look that up. Can you talk it out real quick?
Yeah. Yeah.
You are not kidding.
Yeah. No. Like she's labeled as an American rapper.
Interesting. The thing is
Yeah.
interesting that I haven't heard any of her music though. I actually up until right now I didn't know that she made music of any kind.
Yeah.
Um
No. Apparently she's had like I think she's only been doing stuff since like 2018. Like
2017 her best-selling records have only gone platinum individually. Platinum
yeah.
being I believe 300,000 in sales, gold being
Yeah.
100,000 if I remember correctly based on the RIAA ratings. I'll have to look at that. So no, digital no platinum is a million, my fault. So gold is 500,000, platinum is a million. So that's my fault.
Hmm. Yeah. Let's
The
see
albums
here.
and individual song cases work differently though.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. She really doesn't have that much like she's only got like let's see. She has less than 20 singles across her entire career, so
Well, that's interesting.
yeah. But hey, whatever. Like
I would say that there's a market for everything in that sense. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah.
it
Like some
doesn't
people
it's
like it,
not
some
my
people
kind of
don't.
music. It's but then again, I've never had the popular opinion on music my entire life.
Yep.
So, especially nowadays with some of the things like for example, when WAP came out and people were listening to that song unironically, I thought,
Hmm.
"Wait, people like this unironically? Why? Why?" I
Yeah.
was at a mental loss as to why anyone likes that unironically. Like
Yeah.
this is a bang. I'm like it's a what? It's good. It's good. Do you want to use words correctly, or are you going to keep trying to intrinsically drain me by motivation to live? What are you actively trying to accomplish with this? I don't know.
Hmm.
So, point being though is that I'm not judging anyone for the music taste. If that song's cool to you, hey, one of my favorite songs is "Community Property" by Steel Panther. That's a great song too. So I can't
Yep.
fully judge you. Point
Oh
being though is that I don't get the actual value.
yeah. Hmm.
I would get. I won't sing it right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what else is on the agenda for tonight, Martin?
Well, I think one of the parallels we had drawn originally was like from us from then to now. So let's put ourselves in the sense of aspirations or potentially things that might have absolutely changed for, in a good or a bad way. So think about what it is that you wanted or didn't want at that time. Do you want them now? Do you not want them now? Do you love things? Do you hate things? Are you addicted to things? You know, what's your social security number? What's your credit card numbers? What's your
All right, all right, all right. All right. I mean, like across the board. I mean, like, what do you? I guess in terms of like, what things are we referencing? Are we talking about material things? Are we talking about like emotional things? Because there's a big, big disconnects between the two. Like, I can say, hey, I want a Lamborghini, but I can also say, hey, I want to be emotionally stable. Like, two very
any
separate.
sense of parallels that you feel the need to bring up if they're important to you. So I mean, hey, if you bring being emotionally important to or emotionally stable to you was an important thing around that time in
Mhm.
2019, and you got it now, then hey, bring that up.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
important.
like, I'd probably say like at least in 20 at that point in 2019, like the biggest thing I wanted was just my college degree because like when you're 23 trying to like when you're 23 trying to like get out of college when most people are like 21 when they leave college and like I felt like didn't have as much of a head start on life and all that, and like I was all sad and stuff. And then I actually get into the working world, and I realized like everyone's got their own pace, everyone's got their own situation, and like everyone's got their own race to run. And like I'm just glad at this point that I have my degree and I can say that I have my degree because like I finally have something like anybody can go to school, but like until you have that piece of paper, that receipt, so to speak, at the end of it, it really doesn't matter. Like, and it's also really friggin' stupid because like I probably when I get my pay raise when I'm no longer a contractor at the company I'm at, I'll probably make more than my boss did at that other position I was in.
That's
Like,
ironic.
and that's not that it's ironic, and it's not to talk shit, but like it is also like
He was
to
not a
draw a
nice
parallel.
guy. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we'll preface that with he was not the best boss. I learned a lot from him, but he was not my favorite supervisor. But like, but I mean, like the biggest parallels I would draw would be like I'm definitely happier from home, living in my parents' basement and all that crap. Like, so.
So there's a good question I can bring up to you. And this is a genuine question because I have not gone to college, so I don't know how that sense of satisfaction either felt or didn't feel.
Mhm.
When you went through all that stuff you went through for 4 to 5 years of your life, all the struggle,
Mhm.
all the heartache, all the alcohol that you ingested, all the Taco Bell that you ate,
Yep.
after
So
all
much
of
of
that
that.
time, which by the way was a lot, this man ate a lot of Taco Bell and Mighty Taco.
Mhm.
After all of that time, when you succeeded and what you were given was a piece of paper, really asking this question, how did that feel?
Um.
Underwhelming, I imagine, is probably up there.
Yeah, underwhelming was definitely the feeling. It was a relief to know that I had that piece of paper because there's such a big weight riding on it. But also at the same time, I walk by it every day going like to my kitchen and stuff, and it's just a piece of paper at the end of it. Like the fact that I can like because anybody can really earn a degree. Like there's a lot of people that are in college that are going for a degree that they really don't need to go to, or people that are just in the wrong major. Like there's a kid that I went to college with who was in the IT major, and he switched his majors 3 times, and instead of actually learning the material, he would try to like get people to help him with his projects and do stuff for him with like putting in no effort himself whatsoever. And then when he got like really crappy grades, he was like, "Oh, why is that? Why is that?" Like I thought I was doing so good. It's like, no, you've been sitting around your dorm watching YouTube and playing video games when you should have been working on your projects. And so when you have to submit like a paragraph when you should have had like a whole essay written, like it just goes to show like where you're gonna be. Like you can and you earn the degree. Like let's say he earns his degree, he's not gonna have the work ethic. He's not gonna have the discipline to be able to make it in the real world, so to speak. So like the piece of paper is only a stepping stone or like a tool in the idea that like I always joke with all my colleagues that like the only thing college taught me was how to use Google better than other people, and like to a certain point, it's true. Where
You Boolean logic? Sorry, go
yeah, but like
ahead.
that's kind of what it. Yeah, like as Daniel said, like you don't need college. You can teach yourself anything online, and that's true. The problem is I can learn how to do anything online. The problem is knowing how to do something and having other people say that you're good at doing something are two very different things.
Well, the
I
other
could be the
problem
best.
now is that anyone that's true for everybody, right?
Hmm.
And now you have an oversaturated market of people who believe they don't need school and want to find themselves in any fixated market they believe. The problem is people can learn to do anything. The issue is can they evaluate the trends necessary to become successful in that medium? That
Hmm.
is the key takeaway here is that I wanted to
Well,
be a streamer. That's cool. What's popular? How do I got to do that? Who am I competing against? What are the big things people look for? What games people like? How can I stand out amongst the millions
mhm,
of other people that do this? Those are the key takeaways. I learned how to do it from YouTube. Can you be
mhm.
good at it? And can you evaluate what you need to be successful at it? Those are the two delineating factors that'll help you determine whether or not you succeed. And that's where people
Well,
fail.
I'll even add on to that where like knowing how that works if you're not going to be formally trained at like a higher education facility like I was, like
That's already a deficit as it is.
right. But what I was originally going to say was I could be the best programmer in the world, but I'm not going to get a job where like what I do, like if you can be the smartest person in the world, but you have to start at a lower point than everybody else that has those pre-existing credentials, such as a degree or certifications or anything like that, simply because you don't bring anything to the table that proves your worth. When you go to college, you prove your worth by going through hell for a couple of years, taking some BS classes where like I took algebra 5 times and I still barely passed it, but I know I don't need it for my degree, so I wasn't too concerned with it. But I passed it, I got through with it. But my my class in network security or network administration, I had an A+ in because that's what I wanted to do. That's what I applied myself towards. Like, and the bigger delineating factor for that is when people go and they look at my resume, if I were to, let's say I move to a different position, they look at my resume and they see bachelor's at a SUNY school for technology. That stands out a lot more than like I Googled stuff so I know how to so I know how to program like a Cisco router. Like, because the way society has set up is that the institutions in place are what hold the key to success. That's not necessarily true, but to an extent it is true.
Eh,
Like, as I previously stated, in some niche markets like Twitch or YouTube, you don't need college. You really don't. In different markets, like if you're trying to be a like pharmacist, if you're trying to be a neurosurgeon, you need that formal study and that formal education. You can do as many like back alley surgeries as you want and save so many people's lives, but if you don't have that piece of paper saying that this person went to this school and they know how to do X, Y, and Z, you're never going to get a job and you're never going to be successful in that market.
And the thing to keep in mind, because I see Kevin saying, because society says so, how about letting your skills speak for itself? The problem is, if you're never given the chance to let your skills speak, then ultimately it
Exactly.
doesn't matter. You know, if people are not willing to hire you to let your skills have a chance to shine, then the only person that you did hurt was yourself. And again, it depends on the market you're talking about. Anything in the skills of science and technology and the medical field, absolutely not. You will never have a chance to really break out if you don't have the piece of paper saying, "Hey, you're smart, you know stuff. Congratulations, here's a
Hmm.
cookie." You're never gonna have that. Now
Hmm.
for someone like me, because I'm a good outside example, right? I'm a good outside example. For me, in my particular field, which Steve knows about, and I'm not gonna get
Hmm.
into too much detail, not yet. I'll make a video on that later. I could easily, without a degree, walk into a job that pays me starting over 100,000 a year, without real any difficulty whatsoever. And that is because I'll have not only 9 years of operational experience, but I'll have so much more knowledge than anyone who with a degree does. And there's just
But the
no
thing is,
discounting that.
in that, your degree, quote unquote, comes from the biggest military institution in the entire world, the United States military. Like, and as Lucidity was saying, the difference with versus certifications you gain online by the actual companies. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that go like, let's say you want to be a professional filmmaker, so to speak. And instead of going to film school, you Google how to adjust, how to shoot film, and how to do all this stuff, and you do all that stuff. Like if you just Google stuff, and you might be a very good filmmaker, but you don't have the backing from a certification from a company or a degree from a school, like that's where you're going to get caught up because people don't necessarily trust what isn't written down in paper by a formal institution. I don't agree with it personally. Like I
I
would
don't either.
I I wish like I'm glad I went to college, but I also wish I didn't have to go to college to do what I'm doing.
Right.
Like,
And I think again, just the secondary factor for me is again, I have certifications from agencies that will say, "Hey, yes, you are good at what you do. Here is all these paperwork and documents specifically stating like you are good at what you do."
mhm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
How does anyone have the power to discredit you? They do
Well,
because you're coming to them with an application in hand. They have the
mhm,
absolute right to discredit you because you are asking them for a paying job.
yeah.
So they have the
Also,
absolute right to be that way because unfortunately the way it's set up that if you want to work for them, they have the ability to tear apart your skills and assets because you want to be paid by them.
see, I'll also hit on the companies want people with experience. The problem is that
It's like credit in a
someone
way.
Well, right, but someone with a year's experience will really you can apply for any position you want whatsoever. When they say like when you see an entry level position with 5 years of experience, that's usually preferred experience, and they'll give you an interview if you have 1 year of experience. And like like the big thing with that is a lot of people, like myself included, we want to start higher than we should. Like, I would love to start at a company making $100,000 a year at 24. That would be absolutely awesome. But the problem is, you can't do that. You don't do that unless you're like a super genius and you have like the credentials to prove it. And like again, it's so rare. I'm not even gonna get into that, but like I would love to start at a job making like 35 dollars an hour and like work from there, or make a salary of 80,000 a year. That'd be awesome. The problem with that is that you don't people think they're worth more than they really are. Like that's kind of like the whole like we've actually discussed this on podcast a few years ago. Everybody's a special snowflake and everybody wants to be treated as such. But the thing is, to these big companies, you're just a piece of paper with a name and a number on it. Like you're not special. And so you have to prove that you're special by like starting at like the position that you are in. Like for me, I make like I could go and work at Mighty Taco and I would make more money than I do. But I know in a year or so, given some experience, some I prove myself, I can make more money. And then the people at Mighty Taco that were making more than me when I started out suddenly don't have anything to say about that. So
Well, I think the thing you got to keep in mind is like because as I'll quote this example, that someone could actually be better with 1 year of experience than someone with five. They're going to generalize people because unfortunately, more years of experience usually dictates better outcomes, right?
mhm.
Typically, more often than not, it's saying that this person could potentially, but that could is based on a very low percentage. Me and Steve aren't saying that we like the way this is set up. It absolutely is
Oh no,
nonsense.
absolutely not. Yeah.
Absolutely not. It's more or less just that this is the expectation that's been levied on everybody else, and that includes us. This is just more or less
Mhm.
just us discussing it as it is, the unfortunate reality of the situation. One of the things we have to keep in mind, though, is that as opposed to possibly changing the way the system works in this sense, the more relative idea could be to make the education cheaper so people could afford to get that educated and be more competitive, anyways. I think
Mhm.
that would be the better way to go
Yep.
as opposed to
Well,
just saying that everything's a scam and then just complaining about it. The more accurate way to go about it would be to try and argue the way we could make the education more reachable, make it to where
mhm.
everyone could be more relatively competitive as opposed to just, if you can't
I did.
afford this hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you're screwed. Well, that's not fair. What you're
Yeah.
like, as opposed to complaining about not being able to do anything once you're in the door, let's talk about opening the door first.
Well, I would even say like in like respect to that, which I agree with, like there's a lot of like there's some stuff where you'll see in New York, like the Excelsior scholarship, where you can get your schooling essentially for almost free if like you stay in the state and you provide like experience while you after you graduate and pay off your stuff in the state. The thing is, people are taking FAFSA and Excelsior and all these incentives to like go to college and everything like that and rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, but people are going for different majors that aren't necessarily worth 100. Like people, like, don't get me wrong, I like art and everything, but people going to school for art is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, just art is subjective and like anybody can do it, and that's the end of that statement. If I wanted to go to school and have and spend hours drawing or painting something just to have a professor say I don't like it, it sucks, you fail, like that's not fair.
Well, to be
Like
fair, I think what I could disagree with on that end is not so much the idea that it's stupid, is that people want to go for the resources that are available at that school and help them and talk
I
to
was
people
getting
who
to
can
that.
help
I was
refine
getting to that.
those and help people refine those areas of unique expression. Because
Right.
I agree that paying for creativity in that sense is ridiculous. However,
Mhm.
paying for the ability and the resources and the knowledge of people around you is not.
Mhm. Right. See, and that's what I was going to say is instead of incentivizing like you turn 18, you've been told, oh, I have to like raise my hand to ask if I can take a crap my entire schooling career, and suddenly I have to figure out what I want to do in the next 4 years for the rest of my life. Like there's too much pressure on that, and also like people are still like, frankly, people are young. Like I'm still young, I just happen to know I like computers and I figured I could do something with it. Whereas the whole thing with like the school across the street from the school that I went to Alfred State, the Alfred University, the one across the street. They had a 2 year degree for underwater basket weaving. Tell me, 2 years at a at a private school where average tuition is about 30,000, give or take, like is is $60,000 in debt, assuming you can't pay it off all at the same time, worth a 2-year degree in underwater basket weaving? Will that degree in underwater basket weaving provide you the skills and give you the like everything you need to do to have a successful career in underwater basket weaving? I don't think it's worth that money. So I think we need to incentivize the more like STEM majors and less like arts majors. Like I'm not saying people shouldn't go for arts, but if like also I also think people shouldn't incentivize sports as much. That's also another opinion I have where people are like, oh, you can throw a football 60 yards. Here's a free ride. Oh, you're like really good at science and you're thinking about trying to cure cancer. All right, well, we'll give you 10 grand a year. That's like to me it comes down to that these entities that are these like big old institutions of education are businesses, and people want like the reason why sports are so good is because people will come and play and pay money to watch like the football games, the basketball games. People aren't going to come and watch like a mechanical engineering tournament. Like, and if they do, it's very it's very like much it's on a much smaller scale.
Well, it's
That's
because
what you
when you think about it, right, football is the biggest income engrossing sports, right?
Oh,
So there's
absolutely, absolutely.
incentivations for these colleges to throw more money at these kids because it's all coming out of the NFL's pocket at the end of the
Oh
day.
yeah, yeah.
One way or the other, the NFL is going to be paying for that in some way or another. That's why the sports incentivization is there, because for football, primarily for football,
Mhm,
but all American sports, primarily baseball, basketball, football, they all
mhm,
have great incentivations to put more money into these kids because they want,
mhm.
because it's a big industry. So there's the other aspect of it as well. Um, but that's a more interesting discussion, is like, why do kids with the for the more sports part of it get more inclination for private schooling than, than for actual academics.
Yeah.
But the thing about but I think the another thing too is the another unfortunate aspect of the schooling system at the current moment is the reality of the usefulness of your
Mhm,
individual degrees,
mhm,
and that ultimately, and this is not so much a harsh thing that I want to say. It's just the way, unfortunately, it has to be.
mhm,
No one has owed success purely because they're educated.
mhm.
Um,
I agree.
and the unfortunate thing I had to always preface with that is just that you can have all these certifications, all of these things to your name,
But
but
if you just demand things and you don't actually work for them, you're never gonna get far.
well, there's that aspect. But what I was gonna mostly say is just that, uh, let's not my train of thought for a second. Um, is the usefulness of your degree.
Mhm,
You can be
mhm.
incredibly intelligent in one particular field, but how useful is that to anyone else outside of you, primarily?
Well, that's what I kind of hit on. We need to stop incentivizing so many arts degrees and start incentivizing STEM majors because with like a mechanical engineering degree or like a mathematics degree, you can provide value with said degree. Underwater basket weaving, you can't provide as much value as what it costs to procure a degree like that.
Well, I
That's kind of
think
what I'm
I
saying.
don't I never want to say defund the arts because I'm a big lover of the arts,
Oh,
right?
I am too, but
So
I'm using it as
the
the boot
basis.
of my argument just because like it was it's how you it's like what I saw when I was at school. So
Right, and the thing to keep in mind is just that I think that the more accurate thing to do is keep the expectations a real limited area, right? People want to go to school for arts. Like, I wanted to go to school for music. I wanted to be a singer.
mhm,
Everyone who knows me
yeah,
knows that. But
yep,
I had to examine the reality of the situation. Was that going to be a potential long-lasting outcome for my financial future?
no,
Probably not. That's unfortunate because I wasn't going to get where I wanted to go with it. I
hmm
think that the art should be done in a more cheaper fashion because I never want to be in a society, personally, this is definitely a bias, where we don't have that option. I love the
oh,
arts.
absolutely, absolutely. But
So
like
I think,
again,
but
like the private university, mhm,
if you do those things, you have to understand the reality of what comes with that, though.
yeah,
As sad as it is, and that's not me saying that I like it that way. That's just that people would rather have a biochemist, a mechanical engineer, a network engineer as opposed to a singer. That's just
yeah,
the way it has to be for the current moment. Um, but that's just my opinion. I'm not gonna claim to be all knowing on this topic because again, I didn't even go to college.
Yeah.
I'm technically enrolled in a college, the Community College of the Air Force, and I say that with the heaviest of quotations,
Hmm.
because it's not really a college. Um, Point being though is just that my opinion is purely from an outsider's perspective and examining the trends of people who do go to college and what they go there for, and then how much money they end up making.
Hmm.
Because one of the more interesting things that I actually did over the past few years is looking at people who went to school with me and seeing like what it is they did with their careers, with their futures. Some joined the military, some got degrees, how much money they're making, who got divorced, who's cheating, who has kids, the fun stuff, realistically. But what I come to examine is that I think for a lot of people, the expectation versus the reality was never clear, and they very seldomly do they actually ever get what they wanted out of that arrangement, if
Oh
ever.
yeah, yeah.
Would you say that you did?
Yeah. I mean, like originally I thought about going to school for digital media and film and stuff, but I
We both
figured
did.
like, yeah, but I figured like I would rather go for technology and computers because I know there's more of a future in that. And I chose like I also look at it with the idea of if you do your if you make your career your passion, you lose the passion and it becomes work, which is one of the things of like I'd love to be like an Instagram influencer making YouTube videos all the time, driving fast sports cars, but at the end of the day that becomes work. It becomes less of a passion and more where you don't enjoy it, you dread getting up and all that stuff. Like
Would you
everyone
argue that
always says
anything becomes work at some point if you do it long enough?
absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like it doesn't matter what you do, it will eventually become because there will be a time when you don't want to get up and do that. Like you want like I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to sit on the phones and work like do work or like there are times when like I'd be like, oh, I've got a photo shoot. I don't want to do that photo shoot. Like, oh, I got to edit a video. I don't want to edit a video. Like even like I'm sure some people are like, oh, like I wake up and I'm like gonna film for my millions of subscribers, and they're like, oh man, I got what do I have to freaking do? I have to figure out all this, and like it just becomes work. Everything becomes work. So you kind of like gotta have the diversity to basically break up the monotony. I think.
Well, that's kind of the thing I've hit myself with too. I've been doing digital media, I'll say, for 10 plus years. And you know this better than anybody. I've had to re examine and change my market how many times to try and keep up with what's going on. I started streaming not so much as a joke per se, but I was never truly that interested in it until maybe a year or so ago when I really started taking it a lot more seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
There's that saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I
Hmm.
counter that with the unfortunate reality that if it pays your bills, it has to become work.
Yep. Like
Because it just everything will eventually hit a point where you just don't want to. You wake up one day and just don't want to do it at least once.
yeah. Hmm.
There are
Oh yeah.
definitely jobs that people would rather do than other jobs. Like, would you rather be a janitor at a high school where all the kids literally hate you, or would you rather be an Instagram influencer flexing your cars? Like, you mean, of course, the one person's probably happier than the other. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that ultimately, to a degree, everything becomes monotonous or at work to some level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to put it.
Even for me, right? Like for example, for people who don't know this, and I'll give you a little bit of example. Wednesday through Saturday is my quote unquote my day job, my military stuff, and then on my weekends I'm streaming on Stock Up, Psycho, then my channel, and now I'm bringing the podcast back with Steve. I help manage my
Hmm.
Discord. I'm actually deliver contracts with certain companies right now for Psycho. We're doing all that. I have other projects in editing right now. I have designers that I'm paying. I'm actually spread really really thin as an individual creator for my own level. So eventually all that, well, it is fun and it's really cool to do all those things. It does become work. I have to every single day. It's like you got to do this today, you got to do that today. I'm like, ah, dang. I
Yeah.
want to just go home and take a nap, but I can't do that,
Hmm.
And that I'm only a small creator relatively speaking, so I can't imagine someone with the pressure of I have to please my millions of followers today, and I can't just dip off the face of the earth without causing a media scandal. So what do
Yeah.
I do? I don't like this product. I hope they like it because I don't.
Hmm.
I imagine the pressure of being at the top for that long is probably incredibly high.
Oh, I
Um,
mean, like look at what PewDiePie did. That dude took like a year off. Like he literally was just like, I'm so burnt out and nothing's good enough. So I'm just saying, eat it, I'm out. And like he just took a year off. Like, but he's also in the position where he can do that and he'll still get revenue and income from his previous works. Like, yeah, like
Well, interestingly enough, I think he was more of a unique case because he was. I think he still is the most subscribed person on YouTube, is he not?
I think T Series beat him out.
Oh, they did. Well,
Let me
that whole
let me
situation
check that out.
bothers me for different reasons. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's see how many subscribers old Pew Man has here. PewDiePie. He has 109 million, which is a nuts. And
109.
109. T Series has 178 million. Yeah, they're absolutely
Yep.
blowing him out of the water.
Yep.
But his PewDiePie's videos do insanely better though. That's one thing
Oh
to keep
yeah.
in mind.
Yeah.
His last video, which was uploaded 2 days ago, hit 3.5 million views in
Yeah.
48
Well, I'm
hours.
looking
That's
at
that's
like
nuts.
yeah. Like let's see here. I'm trying to see like see videos. Their last video, like let's say, how long ago was that video? 1 day, 2 days,
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Their one video 2 days ago got 3.1 million views. The highest in the past 24 hours was 600,000. So it seems like they have some I guess you would say bangers, others not so much.
Well, because the entire situation revolving around PewDiePie and T Series was at first the mark to 100 million subscribers, right? But then it was
Right.
also about more or less a pride thing where T Series basically just kept forcing all the populace of India to subscribe to them because they wanted to be
Yep.
PewDiePie. It was literally a country versus one guy.
Yeah,
It
and
was
the
nuts.
fact that PewDiePie still beat them to 1 million subscribe or 100 million subscribers is hysterical.
Well, it's because the entire internet rallied behind him because they realized that it was literally just another company monopolizing the industry when they
Yep.
didn't even need to.
Yep.
And now they have they're going to be the first to 200 million easy. But geez,
Mhm.
that's just ridiculous when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
I mean, hold on. Let's take a look at this. For example, the 100 million subscriber play button. What does this look like? What did PewDiePie get for the 100 million play button? It looks like it's
it's like Red Diamond or something.
yeah, the Red Diamond creator. Only I'm
Yeah.
assuming 2 people have this. Let's do a ranking system. Actually, who are most subscribed? I'm sorry, I was on YouTube. Let's take a look. A few people actually have it. There's
T-Series,
another.
PewDiePie, Coco Melon Nursery Rhymes.
I don't even know what
Set
that is.
India.
Another Indian one.
It's a kids thing.
Kids Diana show. WWE is actually really up there. That's interesting. Well, that doesn't surprise me
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Beast is actually up there too, isn't he? Yeah, he's
Yeah,
14.
0.6. He's number 14 on the list.
Justin Bieber's up there. Blackpink. Some of these I haven't even heard of. A
Sheeran,
lot of these I actually haven't heard of.
yeah,
Interesting.
Ellen Show, Katy Perry, and then a lot. There's a good amount of Indian and like it's just non-American stuff, which is kind of it's kind of nice knowing that like America doesn't dominate YouTube like we used
Not
to.
at all, actually. We do down. I think in a sense we do dominate Twitch, though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think so. I'm not actually not sure. Let's do a list on that. Biggest Twitch streamers nationality, maybe. That's actually an interesting question.
Yeah.
Here are the top streamers per country. Here, this is actually an interesting analysis. I want to see this. So looking at this graphic, let's take a look. If it actually loads.
Graph.
If you look at this graph, oh god. All right, Ninja. I don't care at all about soda popping.
Dude, they're pooping.
I don't like Ninja. If you know me, you know that too. I don't like him. But let's move on from that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is based on highest follower counts. The U.S. Oh yeah, the U.S. is absolutely throttling that market. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what I'm seeing here, the U.S. is definitely the highest condensed with 16 million.
Yep.
Australia's up there with 2.5. No, 3.5. I'm sorry. Let's see in the UK, it's still not even close. Spain actually has 7 million. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Here's that link if you guys want to read it. That's definitely an interesting point to bring up. Or would you? So Twitch has been around since I think 2007 because they were not originally Twitch. They weren't Curse either. It was a different LLC that became Twitch Interactive. And then it was eventually bought out by Amazon a few years ago. Twitch has been around for a minute. Let's actually look into that. I forget what the original Twitch LLC. Want to see this real quick. So, no, not the. I don't want to go to the website. Dang it. Launched 9 years ago. I apologize, but I think the original service they were based off launched earlier than that. Yeah, Justin TV. That's what it was. Yeah, so Justin TV was launched in 2007. That's what I was thinking about.
Okay.
That is what I was thinking of. And I forget what the actual like where the name comes from. There's actually an interesting story as to why Twitch is called Twitch. Let's
Hmm.
see. It was actually inspired by Twitch gaming. I like the association of speed as well, which I felt mentioned the fact that we were a live video platform, and I really liked we could actually buy twitch.tv.com. Okay, so it has something to do with speed of gameplay. Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right. So we have been here for an hour and a half on the dot as of right now, actually 90 minutes. Right before we actually open the floor up, we do want to say, though, thank you guys for coming here. Me and Steve didn't think this stream would be really remotely successful at all. We thought we'd have maybe one or two people. So we're really happy with everyone who came. I really do appreciate all of you. But now we're going to open up the floor for other discussions or any topics you'd like to add if there's nothing, we'll just end up closing it down and taking off. So if there is anything you do want to bring up or bring to our attention or like to discuss for the next 30 minutes to 45 minutes, now is your chance. This is your moment. Let it shine.
Also, just a reminder, if you take a look in the description, top thing is please refrain from military political questions. We kind of already hit on the political stuff, so we're going to stay away from that. And if you have any military questions, either ask Matt in his Discord or just watch some of his other YouTube channels, videos.
Yeah, I try to stay away from the military stuff because Steve can't weigh in any regard to that, so it kind of excludes him, albeit unintentionally. So I try to stay away from that. Also, for people who don't know, let me do the thing real quick. In my Discord server, if someone can get me a link for it real quick. We have now Discord has stages where if you want to actually take part in the Discord and in the podcast and actually bring up things and be a part of the calls like right now, you could actually do that.
Because there is a delay between what you guys post on YouTube and what we actually see on our.
Yeah. Also, I apologize for getting. I brought it up in the chat actually, but I'll bring up some light to it now. For a good majority of the gameplay around the ship section, I had gotten entirely lost because I forgot where I had to go, and I was on the phone, so I had no audio, so I couldn't listen to anything. So I'm wandering around like, where am I supposed to go? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. There is an invite link. Question for you: what was the hardest part of starting YouTube? Why, and do you regret anything? Well, I think the hardest part, and this is something that I've kind of had to come to recently over the last few years. The hardest part was staying relevant and keeping up with motivation because again, I used to be a gaming YouTuber back in the day, and I just wasn't good at it per se. I wasn't as good as the guys at the top, right? And breaking out in that realm was incredibly hard. So the hardest part was realizing the fact that that wasn't my niche anymore and moving away from it, which is why all my old bless you, all my old gaming content got shoved down to the bottom of my channel and is all unlisted because it's not me anymore. It's why I retired the name Alistair. It's why I don't go by that name anymore. I stream games on Twitch, yeah, but that's still centered around the Martin brand. That's still around me. I don't use Alistair as my branding anymore. I think the hardest thing is realizing that if I want to do this medium anymore, I have to adapt and do things I don't want to do. I didn't want to be a military YouTuber. Steve can tell you, I didn't. I legit did it once as a meme, as a joke, and it took off and I stuck with it. But I never wanted it to actually be what people knew me for. And it's unfortunate that
Mhm.
now it's all people know me for. And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm unhappy with the success that it's given me. Not at all. I'm very grateful for it. It's just it's not what I set out to do at all.
Mhm. And that's why you have other channels and you have like your Discord kind of as your streaming gaming Twitch platform rather than your YouTube channel being your like gaming platform, so to speak. And that's why you have your gaming channel on the side as well.
Because I still have the hope that maybe one day it'll take off, right? Or maybe that
Yeah.
one day it'll be what actually happens. But I realize that people just know me now as Staff Sergeant Martin as opposed to
Hmm.
any of the things that I've done. The people who know me as Alistair and people address me as that, my other friends are like, "Who the hell is Alistair?" I'm like, "If only you knew." And that's
Yeah.
the funny part about it. You know, Steve obviously knows who that is, but other people
Yep.
just don't. So the hardest part was just adjusting to the medium that I found myself in. And the biggest regrets that I have one regret, and this is something I never told anybody because I was embarrassed by it. But I actually had a chance to join Obey Alliance, and I didn't realize it at the time. This was years ago, years and years ago. I think it was around 2012, maybe a bit sooner than that.
Hmm.
This team I had a chance to join years ago, and I never took it, and that was a big regret. Another regret I have, honestly, is just I don't know. I feel like I made a lot of promises I never delivered on, you know? And I tried. It's just I always thought I could be better than what I truly was. But what about Twitch? Did you ever find it demotivating in the beginning to see zero people watching? What kept you going? Honestly, was it demotivating? Yeah. For a while, but what kept me going were those sparse instances where Steve, Blue, Golden, people would come into the chat and
Hmm.
talk to me for a little bit, you know, or I could do like a collab with my friends and just go back and watch the footage. You know, Twitch was kind of like my way to like save my favorite moments from gaming. You know,
Yep.
I think that what helped me was realizing that this was just something cool that I could do on the side with my friends. And if people wanted to take time out of their day to come talk to me, I thought that was cool. You know, that's why when people, I still haven't really found a gracious way to accept people donating to me or giving me money because I still know how to handle that because it's not what I do Twitch for. Is it cool to say that I make money from streaming games? Yes, it is. I will not lie about that. However, I will say that's not what I do it for. I've never done it for that reason. If it ever got to the point where I can make a sustainable income for a long term future from it, would I take it? Yeah, probably. But it's not what I'm here for. What keeps me going is my desire to create and my desire to be better than I was yesterday. I apply the same thinking that Goku does to fighting that I do to streaming. I can always be better. There's always something I can be doing. I'm always improving. I will let Steve speak on how much ridiculous time I alone have spent perfecting things.
Yeah. I mean, to preface this, I knew Matt in high school when we were in the same digital media class. And this is before I really knew who he was as a person. He was like way before I addressed him as like my brother and whatnot. But he would spend literal like days. Like we would be in class for about 2 hours a day where we would be doing stuff. Matt would finish whatever project he had to do in the quickest amount of time. Granted, he did really good work because he actually knew what the heck he was doing. We have stories about that, but that's for a different time. But he would spend literal like he would get a project done on Tuesday at like an hour into class, and then he would spend from right when he got that project done till the end of the week to make a drop date release date for a video for his YouTube channel. Like, and that was only because the footage that he had, he would record it from an old crappy laptop at home and bring it into school because we were working on Macs and so we had a better setup. And so the amount of time he spent on YouTube back in the day just blew me away. And honestly, he's only spent more time on it since he's gotten his Discord and he's gotten like more like he's gotten the 12,000 subscribers that are here and whatnot. And with that, like If you actually saw, because he's broken it down for me a couple times, how much like effort and everything he's put into his Discord, into his YouTube channel, contracting people to like make logos and like help like market for him and like put like stuff out for him and like different things like that. It's honestly at this point, like even he's even said like it's probably not worth what he put into it that he's gotten out of it, but it makes him happy. So like as ridiculous as it is in my opinion, because I don't really do YouTube. I tried it for a little bit, but I wasn't too big into it, and I don't stream on Twitch. Like I don't. Do I think it's stupid? No. Do I think it's like crazy? Yes. He's just put an absurd amount of time, money, and effort into everything. YouTube, Discord, and everything.
And it's because, I fully admit that I've been operating at a loss for a very long time as far as my financials go with this hobby. But as Steve had said, it makes me happy. I used to spend hours rendering footage on an old i3 laptop with 2 gigs of RAM. That thing
Mhm.
took so much time to do everything, and I would edit with After Effects on that thing. It was awful. It was terrible, but I did it because I love the hobby that much. I spent
Mhm.
36 hours one time rendering a 3D motion track that took like 20 seconds. That's how dedicated I was to that. And I still edited the rest of the video on that same laptop, rendered it overnight, stayed up all night, worked all day the other day, then sent it to my friends, saw them help me with the CC, the color correction, and everything else, and then put the video out there. Like and nowadays, I can do everything in house, majority speaking, but now I'm driven by my ability to just for my one desire to create because I love showing things to people and my meaning behind things. For example, the next love project that I have is Cohesion 2 with my friend Kevin. My oldest friends from my old Modern Warfare 2 community that we were both in together. And the video, it means so much to me. And I'm going to really try my best to visibly show that with the video when I edit it together. But I'll also write something in there too. But I've always just been willing to take the losses that come with this because I've never done this for money. When my channel started grossing income, I've donated all the proceeds Martin Productions this YouTube channel makes. I always have because I don't want to do this for money. I keep my Twitch revenue only because I take the money I get from Twitch and invest it back into this hobby in some way, shape, or form. Very rarely does it go into something that doesn't see any benefit for the audience, whether it be hardware upgrades, camera upgrades, maybe buying games to stream for you guys. I mean, yeah, sure, that's for me too, but you get the point though, right? That I just always loved doing this because it was the one thing that I felt I had that I was unique and I was good at. Because I'll be honest with you guys, I wasn't popular in school. I didn't have a lot of friends. Steve, my best friend, my brother, who's here right now, literally said when he met me that he thought I was a douchebag. And you can't say I'm wrong.
Nope, that was the first. That was the first thought I saw them. This stupid hat and headphones and all angsty little Martin, and then
And then here we are all that time later. So yeah, it's definitely been a long time, and I will always operate at a loss with this because it's just the one thing that I have that makes me happy, that brings me joy. You know, what slash who was your biggest motivation or inspiration when you started? So I think I can find the video. I think he's gotten rid of a lot of his content. Oh crap! I think he did. Yeah. So here,
real quick while you're talking about this, I'm gonna step away real quick so I can use the bathroom.
you got it. So that is a YouTube video, and this is one of the very first montages I ever saw that got me into like wanting to make like content on YouTube. And I started doing it ever since. My inspirations definitely had to be like the bigger gaming teams at the time, and now what keeps me going, honestly, it's just myself. I don't need anyone really for inspiration, and that sounds really weird, but it's because I know what I am and I know what I want. I'm not confused on what I stand for anymore. I know I'm Martin. I know I'm here to do what it is I want to do, and that's it. If you gave yourself advice when you first started, what would you say? Stay consistent. Stick to one thing. I try to put my hat into so many different into so many my ticket into so many different hats that I never really stay consistent or good at any one thing. I would get good at something potentially, and then I would get really bored. Um so I never really found myself getting really good at any one thing. I found myself getting decent at one thing, then I got bored with it, or I found a hiccup that I couldn't really fix and then I moved on. So I had to find ways to stay consistent. So if I could give myself one thing, it'd be one, don't be embarrassing. Two, stay consistent. Because I routinely made the mistake of just not staying relative in any capacity to anything that I was good at. I was like, oh, I like editing videos right now. And then I like montages. And I got bored. Now I like graphic design, and I did that for a little bit, and then I got bored. And then I'm back to playing, and I got bored with that. And then I went to managing, and I got bored with that. And then I went to streaming, and now here I am. And I'm probably gonna stick with streaming because I've been doing it for over 3 years. So there is definitely the my own failures to not stay relative to what it was I was doing. I think that's the biggest failure that I had, was just my short attention span of finding things that I was interested in. Wow. I need a drink. I am thirsty. I am open for other questions if you guys have some.
I have returned.
Welcome back. Well, here's a question then, for Steve. Then,
Yeah.
so you never really found YouTube, Twitch to be really that exciting for you, which I understand.
Mhm.
However,
Mhm.
what so for in regards to like me, what exactly do you look for in those mediums? Like, you obviously know me, so there's a bias towards me, but what do you look for when you look at those different things? Like, what do you look for in a streamer and a YouTuber?
They have to have personality, first of all and foremost. Like I've watched bigger YouTubers that like I've seen streamers and bigger YouTubers that have tens of thousands of subscribers, and they don't interact as well as you do with other people. Like whether it's somebody joining, subscribing, following, leaving a comment, even on your YouTube videos, you're very consistent with how you regard your audience. Like I've seen people where they have a bad day on YouTube and so they don't want to acknowledge people, and they're all, you can tell in their video and their portrayal how angry they are and how they're just in a bad mood. And it takes away from the video a lot of the time. Like so personality is what I would definitely say. Like
So now, would you say, with relationship to the current global pandemic, right? Would you say that it's now harder more than ever to go up on Twitch, YouTube, or any real social platform at all? Or would you say now that it can be easy depending on how you exploit it?
depending on what you're doing, anything can be easy. Um, I would definitely say the I would definitely say that the pandemic has definitely helped Twitch streamers in the idea that they can there's more there's more of a medium now where people are going to be watching, like because the way it all started was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, where people are off of work and everything like that, and people are doing all this, and so they're sitting around on their computers, on their phones, and there's a big gap where like that was being originally was filled by like it was originally being filled by like television or the radio or driving to work, coming back from work, and suddenly you have nothing to do, and you start seeing this like influx of like people, oh, watch me on Twitch, watch me on Twitch, watch me on Twitch. And so instead of waiting like to come home after work to watch like a YouTube video or two with one of your favorite creators, they start streaming on Twitch, and so you can watch them live. And if it's kind of like it's definitely helped the market in that idea. But also in a sense it also hurts. I would say it also kind of hurts because some people become expectant of having these great numbers as they had at the beginning, where people are always on, always watching, commenting, talking, and now things are starting to return to almost normalcy with the vaccine and everything coming out, and so people are returning to work and people are not watching Twitch as much, and so people's numbers are starting to kind of drop off. So I think it goes both ways.
Do you think that with the presentation towards the youth mostly, that kids can be easily influenced by these things to the point where they think that they can get success purely by just
Absolutely.
doing the things that these
Absolutely.
influencers do?
Absolutely. You can go on. Excuse me, I'm having a snack.
Ooh, snack.
You can go on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, any social media platform, and see, especially TikTok. I'll say because it's like Vine. It's just so simple. Um, look up the whole like Charlie D'Amelio dance trends. Whatever dance she's doing, you can look up that sound and see hundreds, if not millions, of other people doing the exact same thing, with the hope that they get put on the For You page and they blow up and they're the next big thing. Like, and it's so easy to do that, but when the numbers they see are so lackluster because like they're just copying and pasting, they're not adding a flair to it, they're not making any special or anything like that, and so they get let down so easily, and so they give up so quickly.
Would you say that's also kind of created possibly a more in the sense for the younger population, even myself sometimes? Would you say that's created kind of like a mental health issue
Oh, absolutely.
because in a sense,
Like,
right? Like a lot of these kids
mhm.
want this success and they think they can blow up or they think they're not entitled, but they think they're owed potential success and they don't get it or they don't get the
People
validation that
want
they
the instant
seek.
gratification. It's
Right.
all about the instant gratification, what they can get with the least amount of effort put in. Like
Maybe not even with the least
when
amount
you
of effort though, because some people like myself do put in genuine effort and
oh,
potential.
absolutely.
So maybe not even just for the least amount, but just in general, right?
Right. Like, and the problem comes when like that little kid Hank Williams, who he got big on Facebook because someone filmed him yodeling in a Walmart.
Yep.
Well, what they didn't say was that he's been doing that every single day for like 2 months. So he did that every day for 2 months. Someone filmed it, and it finally blew up. And then he got put on Old Town Road and all that stuff, and what became a global icon. But like people just see a quick 10-second YouTube video, yodel, and boom, a millions of views. So I wonder how many kids went into a Walmart, started shrieking their lungs out like him, hoping to get famous, and they just got told to shut the house. Like,
Or the whomever it was who put like the glue in her hair, right?
mhm. Gorilla Glue, yeah,
Oh, jeez.
yeah. Because she apparently thought it was like some hair, like some gorilla like spray or whatever, like that, like a hair product. So, but yeah,
Well,
I
I will
mean,
open up for last call on topics or discussions, and then I think after this, me and Steve are gonna cut out
mhm.
because he is. It's getting late for him because he is 6 hours ahead of me, so I don't
Yep,
want to. And he has work in the morning, so I don't want to hold him too long.
yep. It is going on 8 p.m. here on the East Coast, and I know Matt, it's like noon for you or something like that.
Almost
2
2 p.m.
p.m. Ooh,
After this, I'm gonna go to the store and get some groceries and everything. Need to get some snacks for later.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna play some VR and then go to bed.
I think about what I want to play tonight. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. That's it. I think we cut it.
I think that's it. All right.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Screaming into the Void episode number 16. I really want to thank you guys for making this episode as successful as it was. This is
Yeah,
much better than me and Steve potentially dreamed as far as an outcome. So we really do want to
yeah.
thank you guys so much for that. Like, we really does mean a lot
Mhm.
to us. We
So
will be
it's a nice welcome back, knowing that like we're
people
not
did
gonna
miss
have to start
this.
from scratch again. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll definitely be back. We're looking at potentially every week or bi-weekly depending on how we get guests in because we definitely want to include
Yeah.
guests again.
Guests, topics, and
We
stuff
wanted to
like
make this
that.
one just me and him because this is
Mhm.
like our podcast, you know?
Our comeback. Yeah.
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 But we'll in the future we're gonna be definitely open up to more of it. So
Hmm.
thank you guys so much. And Steve, unless you have anything, we can sign off.
No, I'm all good. Thanks for sticking around and seeing us out.
Alrighty.
So I'm all good.
Alrighty. You guys have a